It's just New Year's. This room always smell like wet.
Yeah.
Slightly.
I don't know how else to describe that, but it smells like a mossy waterfall or something. Not in a good way.
So I'm from Michigan, and my high school best friend
It smells like Michigan.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's actually pretty clean over there because the water isn't like how it is here.
Okay. I feel like you're attacking my water supply.
I know. And it's so humid there. My high school best friend, she put it in a great way. She said it feels like walking into somebody's mouth. When it's
I don't know that that's a great way to put it.
What's this?
What was that?
Humidity
You
here
should not when it's 90
Oh.
degrees.
That's good question.
because I remember last year I was in Tennessee and I get up at night, 100%. So I can feel my skin's wet. It's not wet.
Yeah, no. Humidity in Arizona is a weird thing because we're in monsoon season still, so the humidity can fluctuate from really high to really low. So
you're sweating more.
But it doesn't get that hot that much.
Actually, it smells damp.
yeah.
It's humid as hell. Maybe I like winter. It's still amazing. That's just like taking summer breaks in December is amazing.
Yeah.
It's from
In the summer, it's like
Probably, and there's no windows here either, so there's nowhere for the humidity to go.
I'm not very
Celsius.
Western American. Sure. Where exactly?
Midwest. It has all the lakes around it.
Yes.
So
Yeah, but at
Ari-
least all of it.
so Arizona is west.
Yeah.
It's funny because the Midwest is actually east. So.
I am very bad.
So there's a region for the Midwest, and the reason.
You're not very bad at geography, just America.
Yeah.
Is-
That state right there is where
Michigan. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
the
highlighting
west.
it. That's Midwest.
The area
The
is
reason
Midwest.
it's called the Midwest, you should just Google Midwest and it'll tell you which states are included. Is because of like earlier colonial times, that was the West, because they only used to live on the East Coast.
And the Middle East is called the Middle East because complex geography. You
It's
can,
all in relation to Europe.
yeah, well, we call it colonialism for that, but yeah, so fun fact about the Middle East, which I'm sure many of you guys might be aware of, is what we know now of the Middle East is the result of after World War I, Europe, which was the prevailing power during, well, shortly after World War I, ultimately went through the Middle East, which was being conquered by Germany, and redivided the lines because obviously Germany conquered it and then Germany lost, and then Europe just kind of drew some arbitrary lines in there and said, great, make it work. This is actually the source of the conflict that we're having in Iran and Israel today. It's because of the colonial line drawing that happened shortly after the war. So it's really interesting when you start getting into history and like global politics.
I mean, at the same time, the British drew the line between like India and Pakistan.
Right.
And the guy who drew it had never even been to the country.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can almost imagine a colonial era scriptographer just like pulling out his ruler and like with no regard to cultural ideology or religious differences, and ultimately you wonder why there's so much conflict in the Middle East, and there you go, colonialism.
No one's wondering, we all know.
That was a sarcastic one for the uninitiated. Also, for what it's worth, when I find the person who sticks gum underneath the chair, I will end you. Please don't stick gum under your chairs. Not that it happened in this classroom, but no one likes to stick their leg in gum.
Is it fairly recently?
Yeah, no, it's still tacky. Could probably chew it.
Should pull up the camera. Fine.
Don't I wish?
You should show the online class.
What was that?
You should show the online.
I know. I don't even know if anyone's on. Let's see. Beautiful. Nope. No, no one yet, just me.
Okay.
We have some time, we're doing good. While we wait, how are we feeling about the papers that we all wrote? Okay.
I think the main issue for me was just getting used to the APA styles and whether I've done it right or wrong.
Yeah, APA can take a little bit of time to get used to, but I'll tell you what the benefit is. The grading on that paper it's gonna take us some moments. One, because of just the sheer volume of students in the classroom. But two, I actually don't want to grade that paper. Neither does Professor Storm. So instead, we're actually going to offload that work onto each of you. Can I get a volunteer who wants to show me their Canvas really quick? Because I want to see this peer review. Let's take you and you. I just want to see.
Can we not use Google Docs?
What was that?
Can we not use Google Docs?
Why not?
So I want you guys to use Google Docs because what it gives you guys the benefit of is that when you go to review your peers' papers, you can just leave the comments digitally as opposed to like having to leave them, save it, send it. It's a much better like collaborative tool as opposed to just like a you just writing tool. If you guys, I highly recommend it. You're gonna hear a lot of variable opinions on it, but take GIT 550. I promise it will benefit you when it comes to like team collaboration. Go to the module and project really quick. I just want to see what it's giving you in terms of the peer evaluation. Is it giving you anything?
I don't think so.
Yay! Okay, do me a favor, if you don't mind for your grades. I've seen them all already.
Yeah.
Yours is not. No, not a sign.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, you.
Perfect. Thank you. Let me see yours just to be safe.
Mine
That's
is not
fine.
signed.
There's nothing here, right? I should be looking for this.
Yeah, that is what I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
I've seen none assigned.
Okay. So, I mentioned early on that there's gonna be some quirks as to how we deviate these peer reviews. Sort of an unintended consequence, I'm gonna have to figure a couple of things out, so bear with me on that while we try to assign some peer evaluations. If we can't figure it out, I may just manually issue them and we'll work on it from there. There are a couple of things that I do want to mention just based on the couple that I've already gone through in review. Some of you may have gotten comments from me in Canvas. But I want to make sure of a couple of things. One, I want to make sure that you guys use Google Docs. We already had some dissenters. And the reason that I want you guys to use Google Docs is so that you can leave comments on your peers. There's an important thing. Everyone stop what they're doing and look up here. When you are using Google Docs, you have to update your permissions. So let me find an example here. I'm just going to use this as an example. This doesn't, yeah, I'm going to share it really quick. Here we go. Quick. Okay, so just to use this as an example, in order for anyone else to be able to contribute to your document, you need to come up here to the share button. Within this, make sure that it's updated to, I can't do it on this document, but make sure that it's
the gear at the top right corner.
What was that?
The gear?
No, there's a share button.
There's a share button. Hang on, let me move this because I recognize it's in the way.
I think we should move your.
Okay, I can't move whatever that box is.
Your face is in the way.
Maybe just make it.
Here, let me do,
Is it Zoom?
there you go, just see it now. Hang on, I have a better way.
Oh.
Sure. There we go.
Wow.
So now you can see that share box.
Yeah.
So blue share button, you'll get this little pop-up
All right.
down here. You guys should set this to anyone with the link. Okay? I can't do it on this document. But then even beyond that, you need to come over here and change it from viewer, which will be the natural setting, to editor.
Oh,
Commentator.
I'm gonna resend what I said earlier.
Okay.
And I'm doing that, and I'll make sure to update the instructions. but I want you guys to do editor because you can do something really cool. But it requires that everyone's doing things correctly. I don't want you rewriting anyone's paper here. So what you ought to do, maybe everyone just make a copy of what's there just in case, but you can always go back into the history. Once you have those editor permissions, you can also come up here and where it says editing, if you are a peer reviewer, you want to change this to suggested. Okay? What this does is as you type, it will leave what's called track changes. And you can leave comments. So if you wanted to, let me find something that is actually my document, not someone else's, just as an example. Okay. So here, I can come in here and I can do a couple of things. I can add a comment and say, don't say that, but it's my paper, I can say what I want. You can leave a comment that way, or when you are in suggesting mode, if you say, you can actually write in there, and then what that does for the editor is they can come in and just approve it, and it will adopt that change. Okay, so this is why I'm being a little persnickety about the use of Google Docs, is that in order to do that in a Word document, they have to download the Word document, save the Word document, make the changes, resave it, upload it. It's just more chaos, whereas this can all happen within the one link that's shared. Okay.
So it has to be the editing.
Correct. In order for them to do the track changes that I showed, it has to be the editing. If otherwise, all they can do is leave the comments.
So you suggest we do that now then?
I would just go in there. You don't need to resubmit the link. The link will stay the same. But you can go in there and you can change it from can edit to can view, and that will be, I think, helpful for your peers. I mentioned there was going to be a couple of quirks, this being one of them.
Should we give access to everyone with link or just?
I would just, so what that means is not that anyone within the world can just find your paper and access it. What it means is anyone that you give the link can access it. So that would be me, Professor Storm, our grader Pratik, as well as the peer reviews that we ultimately end up assigning. Yeah.
So editing this to editor, we don't have to reshare the link, right?
You do not need to reshare the link unless for whatever reason. So I do want to point out something that I did see in not many of yours, but a couple of yours. Some people went in and I'm going to explain a couple variations of what I saw. Some people just gave the zip file, but no link. That's a little bit problematic. So as long as your link is in the comments, that works for me. That's actually ideal. Some people just gave their link and no zip file. That's problematic because then when we go to publish it, it's going to be, we won't have the images at full size. Okay, that was the whole point of the full size images. Even if you don't want your article published, I still want you to get some practice with zipping up a file and all that good stuff. Yeah.
So I got the comment for the zip file. And then I pressed new attempt and then now it shows my submission.
That you're late?
Yeah.
Okay, I will go in and I will revise that. I have the power that be to, I know who I've left comments on already, and if I want to recognize something, and I have a whole section for this today. I do want to get us into Illustrator, but I want to make sure that you guys know this module 1 thing we're going to be flexible with just because it's a little bit complicated, and I think us as professors are learning how this new tool works, so there's some grace to be given to all of you and to us. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any questions on that stuff? Yeah.
The document doesn't necessarily have to be on the ASU ID, right? Because I
No.
I did it on my personal one.
If you did it on your personal, that's fine. As long as you set it up with anyone with the link can view it, you're good. I won't dictate what. Yeah, you're good. Okay. I do want to get some quick sentiments on the Apple logo. How are we all feeling with that? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Is that a question? Okay. Okay, good. I also want to get some sentiments on how quickly we're moving. Do you guys like having a little bit of extra lead time where I maybe give the lecture on how to do the thing, and then maybe we have a little bit of extra lead time so you can do the thing? Or do you like it a little bit tighter where it's, I talk about it, you go do it?
A little bit extra.
Extra lead time. Okay, I figured that to be the case. I have a slight intention of maybe extending this next illustration assignment. My original concept was that you guys would have the weekend to work on this, just because it is a little bit more of an intense illustration project. So if you see some dates move around in there, that's just because I want to give you guys some of that lead time to work on it. Okay? But that may also mean that there's a little bit of an odd overlap where maybe two things are due at once. Okay? So just keep an eye on that. All right. Any questions before we jump into some slightly more intermediate illustration today? Good? Okay. One more housekeeping item. Oh. Okay. Oh, sweet Jesus. There. Okay. You guys may have seen this already. I had some long meetings with some students in another class this semester. Feeling that my classes lacked flexibility, that they were really intense, and yes, all of those things are correct. However, I added this section to Canvas because I want you all to know that I'm a human too. It's easier in an in-person environment. I think you guys are able to sort of see my intent with things. The jokes maybe come off a little clearer in person than they do through a camera. And I think this also applies to Professor Storm as well. We are able to make some flexible adjustments in this class. I want you guys to stick to the timelines because that's what the industry demands of you, but I also understand that life happens, okay? And when life happens, sometimes that's outside of your control. So if you have one or two bumps along the way in the class that you're like, I'm sick, or family members in the hospital, or you know what, my brain just isn't working today. That all happens. I think that as long as there's one or two bumps happening in the class, that's something that we can accommodate for. And I can, in some cases, give some extensions on a case-by-case basis. What I don't want it to be is a wholesale carte blanche, just every week is a whole new learning plan, okay? That gets you guys thrown off from what everyone else is doing in the class, and then you're just disconnected. So, that said, if you guys need flexibility, my encouragement is to keep up with the pace, and then we'll modify a lab or an assignment as needed. I don't need your whole life story in order to do that. I need to know there was a family emergency, there was a crisis at work, there was a health issue that came up, right? I don't need your whole story, I just need to know, like, something happened, okay? Also, I put some information in here about how to get a faster yes, because I think it's also important to note that there is a structure for professional communication, and I think you're all doing that well already, but these are conversations I had to have with another class. And just like writing a contract, there's a reason why something's in the contract, and that's usually because someone got burned. So something really helpful to get a yes on those things is I wrote a template for you. So there you go. I also want to point out that if you get an incomplete, sometimes it can be for a minor thing. Maybe the file permissions weren't updated correctly or something like that. I am known for coming up with creative solutions for either resubmission, which doesn't happen often, or just a wholesale like, hey, if you can come up with a better way to word this so other students in the future don't run into this problem, I'll give you extra credit, right? It doesn't happen all the time, but if the incomplete is making the difference between you getting an A and a B, I can get creative, okay? I run the class, I make the grade book, so does Professor Storm. We can get creative about certain things, okay? But what I also want to recognize is that a no isn't necessarily directed at you or your situation or what's happening with you. It's typically directed at an understanding for how the class is moving. where everyone else is at and what giving you another chance to go back and do that will do for you psychologically. Because I think anyone here a perfectionist? Me? Yeah, I'm a recovering perfectionist too. Sometimes we can have a tendency to sort of revel in the details and want to get it right and perfect. And that can slow us down on what's happening on the other side. So I promise we do it out of empathy. Okay? I had to put this in there because I had another class where I was out for the weekend, even though I was still responsive, and someone like jumped in like, this is unacceptable, we have deadlines due, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, whoa, I haven't even left yet, right? Like, hold on. So, a little bit of Slack etiquette. The general channel is designed for you guys to communicate and for me to respond, answer questions, things like that. Try to keep this channel helpful. You guys are doing a wonderful job at this. This is not directed at you, but I'm covering my bases. Okay? This one's just helpful. I have 230 students this semester. So, and they're not all in the same class. There's only like 37 of you here right now. This helps me a little bit. If you're reaching out, just letting me know like, hey, I'm in your C session, GIT 540. I have a question about this particular lab and that contains this, right? That little opening just helps me really quickly connect, oh, okay, this is the deadlines they're working on, this is how, yeah. That's just helpful. This actually isn't pertinent to you, so I will go and remove it. My apologies. Any questions on that? Cool. Sorry to rope you into another class's mess, but I'm just covering the bases here.
The last was helpful though, because
Yes.
we all assume that we're the only people.
Yeah, you guys are the only ones I love, okay? Turns around. No, seriously, I want to make sure that those are just little things that help me be quicker to respond. I don't have to go into 12 grade books and figure out, wait, hold on, which I come to learn each of your names by the end of the semester, but the first couple of weeks can be a little disorienting. So I do apologize that I don't know all 230 of your names just yet. Okay, bear with me here. I misrepresented my own advice that I gave to each of you, which was to get a mouse pad. Who went and got a mouse pad? Anyone? A couple of people? No one? All right. Don't come to me when you have to get a carpal tunnel surgery. All right, let me get some things disassembled here. Okay, everyone can see Illustrator? All right. You know what? Let me double check something. Quick. Okay, so the next step in our class is this. I remember doing this exercise with one of my favorite professors when I was in undergrad. God bless Rudy Gardia, if you're watching. He's probably not, but you never know. These things go on YouTube. So, when we did it back in my undergrad, we did Woody Woodpecker, which might give you a little bit of a semblance for how old I am. I thought about modernizing it a little bit, so instead we're going to do SpongeBob SquarePants. Okay? So once again, very similar process to what we did in the Apple logo. I'm going to save this file to my desktop. I did notice in a couple of people's, and again, I haven't graded all of them yet, but I did notice in a couple of people's Illustrator files, the resolution on your image might have been a little bit low. Sometimes that can just be because maybe you went right-click, copy, and then paste it into Illustrator. Sometimes maybe you're taking a screenshot of the image. There's several things that can reduce the quality of the image, which might make it a little bit harder to trace your logo. So I would just recommend right-click, save as, and then bring your image in. Okay. Now, just because we have a little bit of understanding for the pen tool here, I'm going to go through some of the pen tooling a little bit quickly. Okay. Let me set up a chair here and Here we go again. Wait for it. Probably should have set this up before class, but I had more important things to talk about. My gosh, that is slow. All right, that's good enough. So we've got our artboard here. And we'll go to my desktop just because that's where I saved it. I'm going to click and drag my SpongeBob SquarePants image into my file. I apologize, I'm getting a lot of pop-ups just because I have Zoom running. Okay, there we go. So it's kind of nice just to clear your workspace a little bit. Let's start by getting our image centered within the frame. So up here at the top, you have your alignment tools. We used that when we were talking about the Apple logo. So you can horizontally align center and vertically align center just to get it nice and centered within that artboard. And I believe in this assignment, once again, I have instructed a 5" by 5", 12.7 centimeter, 12.7 centimeter square. You are going to notice that this image is a little bit larger than that. So you're going to need to size it down so that it fits within. There's a really important thing that you have to do in Illustrator when sizing images. Because if you just click and drag, SpongeBob gets a little tall. Or sometimes a little squat. Okay? We don't want this to happen. And I can't tell you how many times I've been at a conference or something when a company's logo got squished because someone didn't do what I'm about to teach you. So before you click, I'm not holding anything with this hand just yet, my right hand, I'm not touching my mouse. With my left hand, I'm going to hold Option and Shift on a Mac. That'll be Alt and Shift on a PC. Then I can grab my mouse, left click, and drag. And what that is doing is that's scaling everything proportionally. Okay? It's making sure that all the sides remain within what's called an aspect ratio. Okay? That way it stays the size, or better yet, the ratio that it had. Everyone able to do that? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed whenever I'm dragging the images to my artboard, I get to use.
Interesting. I'm not sure what's causing that. Delete one. Let's reconnect after class because I'm not sure what's causing that, but maybe if we figure out what that is, we can troubleshoot it.
Christian on the chat says, and centering at the same time.
Yes, so that's a good point. Let me go back for a second. So if you are holding Shift, that scales it proportionally, actually. And then the addition of Alt or Option scales it to the center. So yes, Christian, that's very astute of you. Thank you. Because I already centered the image within my frame, holding Option just makes sure that it stays centered. Otherwise, you're going to kind of undo the work that you already did. Thank you for pointing that out. Great job. Okay, pop quiz. How do I lock an image without actually going into my layers? Someone's mouthing it, but not saying anything. Option, yes, Command 2, not Option 2. Thank you, good job. So we've got that image locked now. If we go into my layers, you'll see that the image inside the layer is locked because that was what I had selected. Whoa, Nelly. Oh, did Illustrator just crash? It sure did. Guys, here is a really great lesson. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for, so you guys can see that there. Sorry, an error occurred. Illustrator just bonked on me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I need to stand up and address everyone, including online. Guys, when I was an undergrad, God bless Rudy Gardia, still one of my favorite teachers that taught me everything I know about Illustrator. One of his favorite lessons to do, because we would all be working for hours before class, mind you, this classroom, all the computers were plugged in, and you were working in the computer. We didn't have laptops. We were poor college students. So he would come into class after we had worked for 2 hours, because the way that our courses were structured, they were 3 hours long. You worked for 2 hours, then the professor would come in and give you an hour worth of critique, basically. And the way the classroom was structured, there was a plug at the end of the wall, and then the door was right there. And he would walk into the room, and he would say, "Hope you saved your work." Yoink. That taught you to save your work really quickly. So every 15 minutes or so, get in the habit of just pressing Command S or Control S if you're on a PC. Because then when that happens, that was awfully good timing. When that happens, you're a little less heartbroken about it. Illustrator's gotten a little bit better over the years. They have implemented a little bit of auto-saving. I'll bet you I'll be able to pull it back up here. But if, God forbid, that happens and you've worked on something for 2 hours, guess what you're gonna have to do? Redo it, okay? So, that said, avoid your own horror stories. I promise not to pull the plug on any of you, but save frequently is my advice. All right, give me a second. So here it just said, oh, let me reshare. Here it's telling me Illustrator just recovered from a crash. Would you like to recover one of these successful recovery documents? I'm gonna hit OK because I don't want to lose my stuff, even though I only spent 5 minutes working on it.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Now, you say for us to log the layer, press Command 2.
Correct.
It's not working for me.
So make sure that you have the image selected. Select the image really quick. And then do Command 2. And if it still doesn't work, you might have a keyboard setup that's a little different. You're not using an international keyboard, are you? No? Okay. Do you have the image selected? Okay. Command 2, both at the same time. Did it work? No? Let me see. Sorry, one second, guys. So it's live. It's not going anywhere. You can't select the image. So select the drop down. That's the layer. The image is inside the layer and it's locked. So you did it, but you're locking the image inside the layer, and that's what it's going to do. So you're good. But you'll need to unlock it and scale it down. Okay. So back to it here. Anyone know the keyboard command for the pen tool? P. There you go. I am going to say that the best way to get the outline, and I usually illustrate a little bit different than some people do. Some people like to look at the illustration and sort of assess the layers and work from the bottom up, or some people like to work from the top down. Either way is fine. I just look at what's the biggest shape. So I tend to like to start with the outline. And I mentioned that I like to start with the acute side on the outside first, usually. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But I'm going to click and drag my pen tool. Click and drag. And I'm literally going around. You know what? I'm actually going to do that a little bit different. I'm going to start with the main body of SpongeBob. And what I'm looking for here is color. Right? I'm just looking for the color. So I'm clicking and dragging. Again, I'm not really focused on how do I make this perfect. I'm just focused on can I get the general shape in place. And I'm going to make my outline red here. That way it's a little bit easier for you guys to see. Is that easier to see? Yeah? Okay. And this is going to take me a minute, so pardon me if I'm going a little quick, but I want to make sure to show you guys some of the other cool stuff. So I'm literally just tracing the edge. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. I'm teaching you guys with the pen tool because that point economy that I mentioned, you have the ultimate control of the point economy within Illustrator if you're using the pen tool. There are other ways. I mentioned how you make money in this industry is by speed. The pen tool is by no means the fastest sometimes, but I'm trying to teach you guys the slow way first so that you know how to control your files, and then I'll teach you the faster way. And we'll get an opportunity to use the pencil tool in this assignment, but I really want you guys to get familiar with the pen tool. See, there I didn't have my image locked down. So let me select my image, and there we go. I want you guys to get familiar with the pencil tool and the pen tool. So for the body of SpongeBob here, just get a little bit more practice with the pen tool. You're also working with some slightly more organic shapes. So again, it takes a little bit of time, but just kind of let your brain go numb, and you'll get there. That was bad anchor point. Shrink that guy up. Everyone able to kind of see what I'm doing? Anyone struggling? There we go. I'm literally just tracing it out. Not focused on perfection, just trying to get it all in here. Now, this part where we run into his arm, we can kind of make up the line as we go because we're going to illustrate his arm separately and then we'll put it on top. So I'm just going to kind of connect the dots. I'm not worried about my toggles. I'm just worried about placing anchors. Yeah.
So there's certain sections in the illustration where certain lines are thicker but certain lines are thinner.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will show you how to do that. So right now you're kind of thinking in strokes.
Yeah.
We're going to work with shapes. So we'll only focus on the fill for the most part, which means that we're going to have some line weight to work with in here. So let me add this. Oops. Break that there. And right now I'm using a stroke just so that I can kind of see the outline a little bit. There we go. Oops. Redraw that. In there. Option to break the ink point. And just remember, it's a lot like throwing a ball over a hill, right? And I'm not super focused on perfection. Illustrator, when you're working with something like this, can be very forgiving. So there we go. It's not perfect yet, but if I select this, and then if I hit I on the keyboard or choose my color selection tool, your eyedropper, I for eyedropper, get it? Hit I on the keyboard, and then I select this color back here, this sort of outline color. SpongeBob looks a little sickly. Right. So there we go. That's one way you can do it. I just hit Command Z to undo that because I want to show you guys maybe what might be a little bit of a faster way to do this one. So I've taught you guys a little bit about the pen tool. Now I want to teach you guys about the pencil tool. Okay? We can think about pen as being a little bit more permanent. That's not necessarily applicable in this situation. But when something's a little bit more permanent, you typically want to go slower, right? Versus a pencil, you can go a little bit faster. So that said, let me find it. I never use the pencil tool. It is underneath one of these. There it is. Okay. So mine, I have pulled up here what's called the shaper tool, which, in my opinion, you're probably never going to use. Because what it does is it takes something that you just draw really quickly and makes it into like a kind of perfect shape. I've never had a reason to use it, especially when you have something called the pencil tool, which is N on the keyboard. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If you know how to figure that one out, let me know. But I'll select the pencil tool. Ooh. There we go. And now, instead of kind of going one by one, I can zoom in here and just kind of trace around SpongeBob here. And again, well, there I went a little off the roots. So it can be helpful to work in slightly smaller chunks and then let go. Okay? Then, click again, work in another small chunk, Oh no, I messed up right there. Command Z, now you don't have to go as far. Okay, so I'm just clicking by the nearest anchor point and drawing up. There was someone last week who mentioned that they use a Wacom tablet or a drawing tablet or a stylus. This is very much like drawing with a stylus. And I'm being a little uncareful, but you'll notice something here. What's happening? What's happening with the pencil tool?
It's creating a lot of anchor points.
It's creating a lot of anchor points. I want you guys to know something. This works for something like this, where you're just working on a really simple, and I know this may not feel like a simple illustration if you're doing this for the first time, but when you start working on really complex illustrations, the more anchor points you have, the slower your machine is going to run. Okay? So if you're ever working on a big illustration, it's pretty wise to think about the type of illustration that you're doing and sort of in advance try to plan roughly how many anchor points you think that shape is going to need, or how complex the illustration as a whole might end up being. Because if you think that your illustration, we'll have an example of this a little bit later on in the class, is going to have a couple thousand to a couple hundred anchor points, you might want to think about, how do I reduce that? I saw a hand over in the left there.
Is it connected to anchor points by itself?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we've all said the word algorithm at some point, and I don't know that any of us actually knows what that means, but it's using some sort of algorithm to define this was the path you drew, maybe some anchor points here will look good. It's also doing, better yet, it's also not doing something. And it's not adding those toggles, right? That's not to say that they're not there, that you couldn't go in and add them, but it does mean that in some of these finer areas, you're going to get a couple more lumps and bumps in there. So just a little trade-off that you're going to need to be aware of when using the pencil tool. And there are some ways to refine those lumps and bumps a little bit. Like for example, there I wasn't super cautious. I don't have to go back. I can just use minus on the keyboard to get my remove tool, my anchor point removal tool. And then I can just hit the anchor point and it'll go away. So there are some remediations that you can make. I can also very easily go in and modify. Apparently I'm not clicking in the right spot. There we go. I can go in and modify the number of anchor points by doing that. Again, for class, I'm just trying to be somewhat quick and sloppy, just to get the point across. So you can do both of these things. That's totally fine. I'm just mildly editing as I go. That way I don't have a whole lot to do. But right there, we're almost done. We're just trying to get all of these shapes filled in. Again, here it kind of goes behind his arm. We don't have to worry about being overly careful, but we do want to make sure that it starts up again down here. And then we'll fill in. Anyone think the pencil tool is easier than the pen tool? Did someone say no? All right. You're learning right then. I'm just showing you this as another option. Do what you're comfortable with, right? Right here, I'm just gonna smooth this out a little bit, bring up this anchor point. So now, if I select this shape and hit my eyedropper tool and select this color back here, and then if I select, hang on, I kind of did that in the wrong order, select this shape and hit the yellow color here, then I select this shape and hit this color back here, you can start to see SpongeBob looking a little bit more like SpongeBob, right? Undo those again, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with just my outlines, and then I'll go in and I'll fill in my shapes later, okay? So something really helpful to do right now is to set up your color palette. So really quickly, if you're tracing, stop and take a look at the screen. I'm gonna hit, whoa, hang on a sec. Figma and Illustrator have different keyboard commands and it's working with my brain in a weird way for a second. M. M for the square tool. Or better yet, M for marquee. Okay? That's the way that you can think about it. Marquees are usually rectangular or square. So M for the marquee tool. I'm going to just make a couple of squares on the screen here with a color. Doesn't have to be any specific color. Did anyone see what I just did there? Watch. So what I did in order to duplicate was I made a shape, and then in order for me to drag it down, I clicked on the shape, held Option and Shift at the same time to duplicate it. Option, duplicate, Shift, keep straight. Okay? So if I don't hold Shift, I can move it around. If I hold Shift, but not Option, I'm just moving the shape. So you need both at the same time to duplicate and keep it in line. Now that I've done that, I can now hit Command D on my keyboard to duplicate. Any questions? Okay. We're moving a little bit quicker now, can you tell? So now I'm going to look at my illustration and I'm just going to say, okay, let's find some colors here. We already have this kind of mucky green that's in the background here. And depending on where you click, you're going to get slightly different colors just because we're taking a raster image and making it vector. Okay? If I zoom in really closely, you're going to see that although that looks like the same color green from far back, there's a couple of variations in that green once you get a little bit closer. Okay? So we know we have this sort of olive or pea green kind of color. And then we'll also get the yellow. Then we'll get, let's say, the black. He's got sort of two color greens here. He's got this sort of mucky green and then just like a slightly lighter color. So if I move that up, you can see that it's slightly different. I'm also weird about organization. So sometimes I will make a color and then I'll come back and I'll do it just so that the colors kind of fall in line hierarchically from value. But that's also because I'm a little weird and I like organization. That's just me. We also have two colors of white happening here and two colors of brown happening. So there's like a bluish white and a whitish white. So I'll add both of those in here. Let's do the bluish white first, then the whitish white. And uh-oh, I'm out of colors. It's okay, we can always add more. How do I do that? Option, Shift, drag, then Command D. Okay? Because if you don't do the Option, Shift, drag first, it's going to duplicate the last thing that you selected. Okay?
So what happens if you do just before you copy it, if you were to just hit Command D, what happens?
Good question. Let's do that really quick. So let's say that I just came from selecting a couple colors. Command D. What just happened was it took the last one that I selected there and it duplicated that, which I already have one there, so I'm not holding anything. See what it did? It just added another one down below it.
So if you didn't have that, it would still work because
it would still work, but it's not going to put it where you want it necessarily. Unless I was selected down here, then I could do Command D and it'll do it. So it's all contextual. It's where you're selected plus how you duplicated it. Yeah.
And lastly, isn't it just easier to have the image itself on the left instead of a color palette? Or is this just because of the simplicity of the image why it's...
So I like having a color palette because you're referencing a single color for the entire illustration. Because as you can see, this color is in multiple spots. So if I just am specking off the image, I might be getting several variations of that one color just because I'm specking from a raster image instead of a vector. So then you lose a little bit of that. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second so the people online can see us. You lose some of that consistency that you need within the illustration. A couple other hands I saw. Yeah.
So I can see there's already color palette with all the colors inside the image.
Those are your standard, I'm sorry.
So every color that you just up there, right? That already exists in like recent colors. The pink, the purple, the dark blue, light blue, all the colors of SpongeBob.
Yeah.
But they're already.
They're already in your color swatches?
Yes.
That's another way that you can do it. I'm showing you how to set it up in your artboard just because in my mind, that's a little bit easier to reference. Like I said, if you can't tell me how to do the same thing 10 different ways, you're not a professional, right? So that's just another way that might be a little bit easier for you. I don't like doing it that way, but that's me. There's also some different things that you can set up with color that it's nice to have a swatch on your art. Or better yet, within your workspace, not on. I saw another hand over here.
Oh, it was for the outline for the left side of his body. Are you just gonna like layer his arm over it so that that part doesn't?
Correct, yeah. So when we get over to this left side, you can see that I'm kind of drawing over the arm here.
You just did like a rough outline.
We're going to draw the arm in that. So again, thinking in layers, the arm technically goes on top of the body, right? So we'll get there in a second. Similarly over here, the arm goes under the body. So we're gonna have to work with layers here.
So that question, if you want to use to remove a specific anchor point, just shift it over slightly.
Yep.
You should that again.
So really quickly, can anyone tell me how I can shift an anchor point? What tool do I use?
The specific select or what is it?
Direct selection
Direct
tool.
select.
A on the keyboard. Then you can select an anchor point and pull it wherever you want. So A gives you your direct selection tool. That's the difference between the white arrow and the gray arrow.
Right, that's
In dark mode, at least. I think in light mode, it might be the black arrow and whatever. Yeah, that was not good. Yeah, exactly. So A versus B. B gives you the selection tool. A gives you the direct selection tool. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to speed up a little bit just so that I can make sure to get through this whole thing. We've got our browns. We've got our whites. We need some reds. So there's really only one color red in there. And then we also have a blue in his eyes. So there we go. Now we have our entire color palette. Hopefully, I probably missed something. And now we can use that to specify. We'll use that a little bit later. Okay, so don't feel like you need to worry about that too much now. I'll even show you guys how to add colors to your color swatches. Okay, so we've got our outline. Now we can use the pencil tool. We can just start going in and, we can just start going in and shaping things up. Now, I mentioned that you have some options when it comes to the tool. If you feel like it's adding too many anchor points or too few anchor points, you can adjust that within the tool. So the way that I got there was I came over to the tool in my tool palette and I double clicked on it. Now you have some toggles that feel really arbitrary. I suggest just go and, you're gonna hear me get a little bit scoldy about using the word play in this industry. Oftentimes we'll say the words, I was just playing around with it. We are scientists, we don't play with things. We create hypotheses and we solve them, right? So I get a little persnickety about the word play, but this is a situation where I suggest go play around with it and see what it does. That way you can just learn it. But in this situation, I want my pencil tool to be just a little bit smoother. And then I can hit OK to apply those settings. Oops. Maybe I didn't want it that smooth. Oh, what is happening? Okay, let me try something. What's going on? Okay, something's a little fussy. This can happen sometimes. So, for example, notice that before I was getting like a red line when I was adding my stroke. That was because I had a color applied to my stroke. So I wasn't getting that just now because I didn't have a color applied to my stroke. So now when I do it, I should get a blue line. And it makes it just a little easier to see where you're drawing. Okay? So sometimes Illustrator can be a little bit quirky. If you run into that, it's really easy to get upset and frustrated with Illustrator. That is a good opportunity to take a step away from the computer for a second. go get a snack, go get a drink, go walk outside and smell the fresh air, and then come back in and try again. Okay. So there, I just added a stroke. Notice that it's not perfect. That's okay. No matter. Just keep going. I'm not looking for pixel perfection. I'm looking for, does it look like SpongeBob? SpongeBob has several variations. This isn't a logo. You're just wanting it to look close. So I'm just going in and I'm filling in all of SpongeBob's little circles here. And this takes some time. Just once again, let your kind of brain go numb and just illustrate. I already see some colors I forgot. So I'll duplicate that. And we'll add this red and this pink. Okay? So that happens. We're human. There we go. Where did I leave off? Okay, let's do these ones up here. By the way that I'm zooming there, Command spacebar. Slide left to right. Okay. Back to my pencil tool and on the keyboard.
You just use command scroll.
Mine doesn't.
Like, I don't know Mac, but in mine, if I just hit Alt and scroll, it scrolls up and down.
On a PC, it might just be Command scroll. Mine is Command spacebar, but that might just be because I'm a Mac user. So it might be a PC that is just Command and scroll. So there we go again. I wasn't able to see what I was drawing because I didn't have a stroke applied. So let me go in there and apply a stroke. Move up. Click and drag. And oh, look at that. I went a little over. It's okay, just Command Z. You might also find it a little bit easier to draw these if you zoom out a little bit. Because then you don't have to move your mouse quite so far. Yes, tell me. I can see your comments.
Yeah, it's saved for a while.
I haven't. No, I had my computer in front of it, but I just saw it. What's up?
Well, I was just saying that you hadn't saved for a bit.
Ah, good call out. Yes, you're right.
Yes, that was Christian, not me. I'm give credit where credit is due.
He's being very astute. Okay, this is a good opportunity. Thank Christian, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Christian. All right. Everyone go up to File, Save As. I'm going to save mine using a very archaic, non-specific name, but I recommend save yours as the actual file name. Hit save. Hit OK. Make sure that you don't save it as a PDF. Yeah.
You would do incremental save?
Do you mean like autosave?
Well, because it's Command Shift and S. It just saves S, and then just do for version 1, 2, 3.
Correct. Yes. So what you can do is you can do Command Shift S to get your save window up, and what he's mentioning is just versioning. So if I say SpongeBob version 1, there's that, and then you can do SpongeBob version 2, SpongeBob version 3. That is helpful when you're working within iterations. So for example, if you have a client and you've sent them the file already, and they're like, great, we need 12 changes, you do those changes, that would become a version 2. I don't do versioning when I'm just saving over my work because I've made progress, right? And the only reason that I don't do versioning there is because it really doesn't matter. What I track versioning for is billing to my client. If I'm billing my client based on the number of versions that I do, you bet I'm tracking my versions. But if I'm just saving over the work that I've done because I've made progress, no need to track versioning there. You're not saving a video game. So anyways, back to where we were. We're just filling in here. There we go. Oop, missed one. And you want to make sure that you go back and that all your shapes are actually closing. So really quick, everyone watch this. Click, I draw my shape. And let's say that I get back over here, but I go a little over. That shape is not closed. It is not going to do what you want it to do. So you need to make sure that you click, draw, and that the shape actually closes. Okay? If you don't have closed shapes, you're gonna be unhappy later.
Is a small circle indicator closure?
What, I'm sorry, what was
There's a
it?
small circle indicator right next to the icon. Is that the closure thing? I'm not too sure.
That?
Yeah.
Yes, that is the indicator that it's closed. Yeah. So for everyone, really quick, it's really, really small. You'll notice that, you'll notice right now that my tool has a little asterisk next to it. That means that it's open. Once I get it up here and close enough, it'll kind of snap and it'll turn to, the asterisk will turn to a circle. That's how you know it's closed. Okay? Good question. So now, I mean, I'm kind of working with arbitrary shapes right now, but we can go in and we can start filling in some of these shapes. And I'm gonna move kind of quickly here, so ignore how ugly this is gonna be. But I want to get to a point where I can show you guys all what layering is. So here I'm just tracing around, that's it. There we've got the mouth. You're just looking at individual colors. It's a good opportunity for me to stop there. Delete. Delete. There we go. Pencil tool. Now, some areas you might choose, you know what? The pen tool might be a little bit better. Here's something I want everyone to pay attention to really quick. If you zoom in really far, there's this little tiny circle here in acute corners, right? That little tiny circle is what we call a corner widget. Go figure, they have fancy names for things. So, really quick, you'll notice that this isn't exactly like as sharp as it was when I drew it, right? So if I draw this in, sorry, that was really sloppy, and actually I'm not even gonna get my corner widget there. There. Okay, so when you have this really acute corner, you can select this point, grab the corner widget, and pull it in if you want a softer corner. Okay? That way it's not so pointy. All right, so I'm probably not going to get all of SpongeBob illustrated today. I want to make sure that we cover just enough that you guys know what to do, but not enough that I'm doing the whole thing. Okay? So, and actually I might even have a version of this video where I do the whole thing. I might choose to upload that. So, I want to take a moment to start applying colors. Now, I've built this in a way where I've built it from the bottom to the top. You may not do that, so I'm going to jumble up some layers in a minute here. But let's start by adding some colors. So here, we know that that belongs over here. So I just hit I on my keyboard to get my eyedropper, and I'll select that color to get it to fill. This is also why I find it helpful to have the colors over here and not referencing the image, is because once you put a fill in, you can't see the colors behind it. You may choose to have a reference image off to the side. So dragging that over here just so that you have an idea for what colors go where, that can be helpful. So then I'll select this shape, do my fill. We know this. And really quickly, if you want to select multiple shapes at one time, you can hold Shift. Hold Shift and then select. You have to keep holding Shift, and sometimes you will select the wrong thing. Just hold Shift and deselect. Okay, select it again to deselect. So all of these, I want that to be this color. And then all of these, I want to be slightly different colors. So again, I'm just holding Shift and selecting those. Oh, pay attention though, because I just selected the background. I didn't actually select that dot. So I'll click again. Select that. And that. What was that?
I think you selected it because the outline of the.
I may not have, so let's double check. I'll hit I on the keyboard to get my selection tool. And then I'll select that. So I did get it. There we go. This guy here, we know that to be this kind of dark mauve color. This one here, we know to be this kind of, maybe that one's the pink color. So there we go. It doesn't quite look like SpongeBob yet, but we're getting close. right? This is a good opportunity to select the artwork and move it to its own layer. That way you can toggle it on and off, okay? So I'll come over here to the layers, and I'm gonna name this image, okay? Once again, to select the whole thing, I'm gonna click and drag over it. Here's a new tool, Command X. Command X cuts, just like your Word documents. I'll make a new layer, make sure that that layer is selected. Command F, that's where it's different, okay? Because if I just do Command V, it didn't paste it where I had it, right? So if I want to paste something in place, Command F pastes it in place, okay? Mind blown.
Yes.
Cool. So there we go, we have that. Now what I'm gonna do, I actually put that on a third layer because I want to turn this layer off just for a moment. Because I don't want to build too much at one time. Kind of want to build and get a sense for what it is that I'm building, and then go back and build more. So I locked that layer. Now I'm going to select this one, and I'm just going to keep building. And then at the end, we'll go in and we'll just merge everything into one layer. Okay? So we know we have the body. We know we've got part of the mouth. Let's work on some of the other parts. The mouth is a really interesting section. Yes.
When you're creating just a singular animation, like an image or whatever, would you want to layer it by color? Just so that, like,
Not
if anybody else is looking at it, they then know that this is like in those.
There are a lot of different strategies to illustration, and I don't want to be the one to say do it a certain way. Every company that you're going to go and work at might have a different organizational structure. Some might organize it by color. Color has a little bit of problems though, because let's go down that path. Oops. Yeah, no, I want that, I want to unlock that. Let's say that, okay, let's say that we want to organize by color. Give me a sec. I'm gonna make a duplicate. Cut. Actually, paste in place, block. Olive, oops. And then yellow. Okay. I'm just gonna paste everything there for a second. I'm gonna turn this off. So if we wanted to separate the olive color from the yellow color, I'm gonna select that. Go to select, same, fill color. And that's gonna select anything that is that same color. I'm gonna cut that. Well, actually, that should have stayed in place. So I'll actually select the yellow color, select same fill color, which it really should only be the body. So I'll cut that.
It doesn't show up when you're selecting the same option on screen.
It doesn't? Oh, it sure doesn't. Hang on, let me try something. Stop sharing. Share.
Just share the screen.
This time. So select. Now can you see it? Okay, there we go. Thank you for pointing that out. Select same fill color, which it really should only be that body, but I'm doing that just to be double checked. I'll cut that and I'll put my yellow up here. Now what's the problem? Can't see the other stuff behind it because this yellow is on top, right? So even if I took, well, if I move that down, now we're back to this, right? So if you separate by color, that doesn't always work. So that may work for some things, but then it's going to break on other things. Okay?
But isn't this just technically wrong? Because in the SpongeBob outline, this central fill doesn't exist. So wouldn't that technically have to just be a stroke on the outside? Technically, and I know that for now it's just a representation.
That's called pathfinding. We're going to get to that. Okay. I think that's probably what you're referencing there. We'll get there. Okay, let me do a couple of undos really quick. That was a good exploration because, like, I can't tell you how many times when you're illustrating something, anytime you go in to design something, you're going to have some sort of strategy, right? You're gonna think you have a good idea and then you'll start down it and you're like, that was not efficient. These are just things you learn when you use the tool for some time. Okay, let me turn this off. I want to start working on like the eyes and the nose and the mouth here. So I want to show you guys shapes. Over here under your rectangle tool, if you click and hold, you actually get access to several shapes. This on the surface doesn't look like all the shapes, but it kind of is. I'm going to start you guys with some simple ones. As we already used the rectangle tool, let's now use the ellipse tool. Okay, this is L on the keyboard. Don't ask me why they chose L. It doesn't make sense to me either. What was that?
Phonetically, EL.
Or L?
L is in phonetically like EL, so
Ellipse.
Oh, ellipse. Okay, yeah, maybe phonetically. Your guess is as good as mine. So here, we know the circles, or we know the eyes to be roughly circular shaped. So I can click and hold Option to scale from the middle. And voila, we have an eye. It's just the wrong color. So let me just do that. That way we can see it for a minute. L, let's do this eye. And notice that I'm not exactly like right in the center there. So I can just get it close and then hold Shift and move it over to keep it a perfect circle. Okay. Any questions there? Cool. Now there's multiple layers going on here. You have the black in the background, you have the white, then you have black again, then you have blue, then you have black again. Okay. So I'm actually going to adjust these circles slightly off of perfect. So I'm not holding Shift right now. I'm just kind of adjusting. Because what I'm trying to do is get to the outline of the black. I want you guys to get in the habit of using mostly fill shapes. Unless you're designing something like an icon, using a stroke can just, in some situations, massively overcomplicate the problem. So I'm trying to scale this to the point where if I made it a black fill shape, and then just put the white on top of it, as opposed to using white and a stroke, it's going to make my life easier. So we did that. Now, what I can do is I can select this shape, do Command C to copy, and then Command F to paste in place. It doesn't look like anything happened, but something did. Now I can scale it in a little bit. And I'm going to make this a different color so that you guys can see it. Red is helpful. Now I can click and scale that in so that it kind of matches the shape of the eye there. Drag that over. Do the same thing here. See a hand.
is there a way to increase the number of points that we can control in a shape?
There is. So the question was, are there any ways to increase the number of points that you can control in the shape? I can't imagine why you would maybe want to do that with a circle, but in other situations, maybe yes, because if you add an extra point and you control it from that area, you're going to get slightly off circle. But yes, any guesses as to what that tool might be?
Is there a point tool? Because in 3D modeling, you have point tools.
The pen tool is equivalent to the point tool here. So I can just hit P on the keyboard. And notice that when I'm hovering over the line, you get a plus sign. That means you're going to add a point. Okay. So yeah, good question. Now we can just sort of do this a couple of times. Command C, Command F to paste in place. Scale it in. Scale it down to get my black shape there. Once again, Command C, Command F. Scale it down. Scale it down. And I'm holding Shift to make sure that I retain the proportions there. Once again, Command C, Command F. Scale it down. Scale it down. Pupil's a little off circle. So there we go, we did that eye. Now let's do this eye. Command C, Command F to duplicate and paste in place. Scaling it down. And I can just drag it into place. Really quickly, how do I copy and paste in place? What was it?
Command N.
Command C, Command F. So to copy a Command C, to paste in place, Command F. Another pop quiz. How do I scale proportionally? Perfect. How do I scale proportionally and from the center? Shift Option. Good job. All right. This is working. And C to Command F to paste in place. There we go. So now we have eyeballs, sort of. I'm going to layer some colors and then I'll get to your questions. So remember it. So with this one, it's going to be helpful to think from the inside out, just because if you do black on the outside, I'm missing a color. It's okay. We can just go and add another one. Add black. There we go. Select these two. If I make those black, now I can't see the other shapes. All right, so we're gonna have to work with some layers here. We're gonna have to adjust how these things are layered. So I'm gonna start from the inside. And I apologize if my zooming in and zooming out is a little bit sickening. Actually, let's do two at a time. I have this pupil selected and that pupil selected. Eye on the keyboard for what? Eye drop. Thank you. Then I can click on that color, and voila. Now let's do the blue, the iris of the eye. Anyone reading their HSE book? There you go. Now we've got the iris. Now I can select this guy right here, make that black. And I can select this guy here, make that white. Now I can select this one, make that black. Oh no, we lost an eye.
He's just a pirate now.
He is a pirate now. Yes, very good. Okay, there's a couple of ways that you can work with layers. Obviously, the sort of primary way to work on it is using the layers panel over here. Now, if you're ever curious what an item is that you're working with, because these layer stacks can get pretty thick. The best bet is to usually select the layer, and then you'll notice over here that it gets highlighted with a color. And that color might be different depending on the color that you've assigned to that layer. But now I can just take this and drag it down, and there we go. Now, this might look okay right now, but something feels a little off, yes? Can anyone tell me what it is? The outline of the left eye. So if we look at our results over here, there's a black line that goes over, actually for me it's the right eye, right? So there's a black line that goes behind the left eye and it goes over the right eye. Okay? So we have to work with the layering of this entire eyeball. So I'm actually going to select all of these items right here. And if you're on a Mac, it's Command. If you're on a PC, it's Control. Command G. What that just did was it grouped that eye together. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing on this eye. I'm just going to select everything with the eye, Command G. And now, instead of moving one layer, so I want everyone to pay attention to these layers. This is left eye, right eye, right? I want to have my left eye selected, and I'm going to hit Command and the left bracket. So for anyone that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen really quick. Online, this might be a little bit hard for you to see. I'll try to draw bold. I am just getting stuck to everything. What the hell? All right. Let's not do that again. All right, so a bracket looks like that. Online, can you see that okay?
Yep, very well, thank you.
So there is your left. I can spell. Not really. There we go. In case you get your left and your right confused. Fun fact, if anyone do the else. If you, hang on, let me verify myself really quick. Yeah, okay. If you use the left bracket, this sends back. If you use the right bracket, that brings front. Let me show you what I mean. Here it was lower than I thought. Let me get Zoom pulled up here. Okay, so right now the right eye is in front of the left eye, and I want to send them back. I want to send the right eye back behind the left eye. So I'll do command and which bracket? Left bracket. There we go. Now, SpongeBob haveth proper eyeballs. There you go.
You just drag layers also, right?
Yes, you can also drag layers, so there you go. Okay. RuPaul would be proud. That was a drag joke. All right, so now we can add eyelashes. This is a good opportunity to just use the pen tool for what the pen tool is worth. Just click and drag. That's it.
Those can just be grouped with the eyes.
Correct, they can be. So I'm just dropping some of these in. What was that? Ah, yes, someone, see, here's the nice thing about being professor. It's more say as I do, or no, it's do as I say and less say as I do, right? So yes, Command S for save. Now we can keep going with our eyes. So there we go. There we go. And I'm not drawing any anchor points here because we're working with mostly right angles, right? And it's a little quicker for me to do that than for me to hit my marquee tool, draw in a rectangle, hit the rotate tool, rotate it, drag it in, versus just dropping some pinpoints, right? So that's why I'm not just using the rectangle tool. All right, we are entering tumultuous territory. That is the nose. Notice that the nose has a black outline that connects to the mouth that then goes over the eyeball as well, right? We also have this cheek shape here that, let me turn off the eyes for a second. That cheek shape goes over the eyes, and you end up with this kind of interesting shape here. So this is where we kind of have to get creative a little bit. And we need to start thinking about how our shapes combine. There is a technique called the Pathfinder tool. So this gets really complex, and I remember when I was studying undergrad being very frustrated because it felt like the Pathfinder tool was a secret code that I could never understand. Okay? This takes time to learn. I want to be very transparent about that. But once again, go in there, play around with it, try to understand it. There are certain scenarios where certain pathfinders work. There are certain scenarios where it don't. And then you're going to get into Figma and realize that Figma's pathfinding tools work totally different. So that said, I'm going to start with the pen tool here. I find that the pen tool is a little bit easier for this like sort of bulbous round shape. Oh, really quickly, has anyone had this happen? Where they select a tool and it gives them the little circle with the X in it. Anyone can tell me why that's happening? Not you, you've used Illustrator.
Layer is long.
My layer is, there's a couple of things happening actually. One, I don't have any layer selected. Two, even if I did select a layer, it would still show that because, and this layer is not locked, so why is it happening that way? It's because I don't have the layer turned on. Okay, so if you run into that, you can check a couple of things. One, check to see if the layer is locked. Two, check to see that you have a layer selected. Three, make sure that the layer is visible. Or four, just make a new layer. That helps sometimes too. So I'll click here and drag. By the way, really quickly, can someone tell me how I'm doing on time?
It's
Yeah.
My time's up? Okay. I want to show you guys this really, really quick and then we'll get out of here. So I'm just clicking and dragging. Get to the corner here, make a right angle. Get in here, click, drag it in. Go here, click, pull it down. There we go. There we go. I'm working really quickly here. Don't mind how this is going to be. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think this is a good stopping point. Let's do this. I already have this one recorded. I'm going to upload that recording along with this one. Okay. That way, if you guys want to watch the whole illustration process, you can. And then if you guys have questions, just load them into the Slack channel. I want you all to get really, there are some knowledgeable people in this room. Okay. I want you all getting comfortable with sharing your knowledge. So if someone asks a question, don't wait for one of us, myself or Professor Storm, to jump in and answer the question. Get the confidence to answer the question too. Okay. So if that happens, someone asks a question, jump in and answer. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, what is the Pathfinder tool?
So, good question. The Pathfinder tool, it may not show up naturally for you. You may need to go to Window, Pathfinder. Okay? And what the Pathfinder does is it allows you to cut out shapes. Think of it like your scissors. Okay? And what it'll do is it'll take one shape and use that shape to cut out the next. Or, in some cases, you can use it to combine shapes.
There's an option to make it non-destructive. Make sure to use that.
Correct. Yeah, there is an option to do non-destructive. I tend to not use that because I kind of know what I'm doing with Pathfinders now. But yes, you can do it. All right, online, you're good?
Embedding into that because it's my side instead of
Yes.
So
Good, thanks. Thank you, Christian, for reminding me to say.
it shouldn't be an issue for you.
All right, y'all.
As long as you
Have a great week. Don't forget to update your papers if you didn't already do that, and then we'll figure it out.
Yes.
Is that loaded?
But
Just to keep it
I
organized.
Monday.